Welcome back to another episode of Legal Lounge where we talk all legal but no advice.
You switch it up every single time.
Do I?
They probably sit here and think that you're doing that on purpose every time.
I say the same thing
Where we
every
talk
time.
all things legal, but it's not legal advice.
Okay, it's more. Okay, I got it.
Try again.
Where we talk all legal things.
Where we talk all things legal, but it's not. But it's
not legal advice.
And then you have to give the wink.
No. Okay, so today we are covering a case that's happening currently. By the time this goes out, hopefully there's a resolution to this case. But there's a case that's going on. This guy, Travis Caleb Decker, he is on the run right now for killing, accused, allegedly murdering his kids, 3 of them, Peyton, Evelyn, and Olivia, age 9, 8, and 5.
Oh my gosh.
And this happened during his court-ordered visitation that started on May 30th, and their bodies were found suffocated inside a tent near his abandoned truck at Rock Island Campground on June 2nd.
That's terrible.
And he has been missing since.
You probably told those little angels, like, we're going to go camping.
And then died.
No, not died, murdered.
Murdered. Right, by suffocation. And then the way they died, they found zip ties around their wrists, bags over their head, apparently. So it's not an accident. For sure, there's evidence of murder that happened. And they cannot find him. And he is a veteran.
Possibly premeditated.
Mm-hmm. I think it's premeditated. If you're bringing all those tools, because do you have a zip tie in the back of your car?
I mean, yes.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. For what? Just because?
Your car.
What would you use a zip tie for?
You use it for anything. There's a lot of things. A lot of people use them for typically like bumpers, side skirts, stuff like that. So whenever your bumpers...
hold it together?
So there's like little pins underneath your... where your bumpers are, there's a bunch of different pins that hold it in place. And even your undercarriage and like your front, there's like a plastic cover that covers all of the like the metals and the different parts in there underneath. Sometimes those can pop out and your bumper could come uneven. Or let's say somebody runs over thing or their bumper hits something and it kind of pops off. You just pop a little zip tie in there. You can put you can grab a drill.
Mm-hmm.
And a little drill bit, put a tiny little drill bit hole, put the zip tie through, tighten it up, and it'll hold the bumper in place.
So that's why you have a zip tie in your car?
Yeah, it's part of my, I also have, bandages and stuff, too.
I guess, a regular...
for instance, yesterday I had to fix a flat tire,
mm-hmm.
and I had to plug it and stuff, too. And...
You put a Band-Aid over the hole?
Yeah.
No chance.
No, dude.
Oh.
Of course I didn't put a Band-Aid. No. The Band-Aid is part of the little emergency medical kit thing.
Oh, yeah, right.
And then there's gloves. There's a tool in there that's a multi-use tool.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so whenever I was going through my stuff, I had zip ties and all this other little equipment.
I mean, I guess that's okay. But in this instance, I guess he had different plans.
But I mean, you could technically, I don't know. Do people use zip ties with food? I know that sounds messed up.
With food?
But
No.
Could you fight? Could he?
Oh, his defense?
Yeah,
he
could
had
he
different
fight
plans?
that?
No. Because somebody did it.
I mean, no. Well, obviously, and the zip ties. I mean,
mm-hmm.
is obviously okay. You wanted to make sure that they didn't get away.
Mm-hmm.
But does that still go along with the? Oh, maybe I'm getting ahead. I was gonna say, does that still go along with the plea?
Yes, you are getting ahead. So I wanted to tie into mental health. I know with certain criminal cases, I know people want to plea insane as their defense.
Insanity, yeah. Insane.
But in this case, you can clearly tell that that's probably not going to go his way if he is found alive and if he's being prosecuted, if he decides to.
I bet you he's not alive.
Do that as their defense. I don't think it will go well. And this is because of why. So The insanity plea, you have to provide evidence that you did not know the right versus wrong in
Right.
the act of the event, the act of murder for this instance. So he has been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and PTSD. He was reportedly homeless and struggling financially, apparently. And so, again, right now, at this moment, today is June 13th, he is still on the run, and there is a reward for $20,000 if somebody finds him. But I do agree. I don't think, in my
I don't think he's
opinion, I don't
alive.
think he's
I feel like
alive.
all that stuff in the news media coverage, I think most people that, and most times when they do something like this, they find them like already deceased. So I
And
feel like he would be. If he's not already found, he's not like some, you know,
he
crazy analytical serial murderer killer that has fun and plays a game with the media. Like he's probably just some, you know, normal vet that came back with a lot of issues. And
But you put your kids through that. That's
what I'm
I will
saying is there's
never
no way he
understand
could,
people could do that.
there's no way the police or anybody couldn't, like the detectives, they can't find
Yeah.
him. So it would have to be really soon. If they don't find him soon, then he may be either dead or in another country.
Yeah.
But there's no way he's that smart.
And he left his truck behind, which contained bloody handprints. Male blood was found on the campsite, which at this moment, I guess we don't know who that blood belongs to, but I have a slight feeling that it's probably him. But the question that I have is, if they're saying that he was reportedly homeless and was struggling financially, at what point do you feel as the mom giving that visitation to the dad is at fault too? Like, if I knew as a mom, if I know the child's dad was struggling and doesn't have a home, I don't think I would send my kids with him.
But he was just going camping.
Yeah, but what, camping for the entire time of visitation?
No, but maybe it was just like
And
a
it's
weekend
and
trip.
keep in mind, this is during the summertime, so they might be practicing their summer visitation, which are typically longer. They're not just
If it wasn't,
overnight or weekends.
if it wasn't him, they would have found him already. Because he would have been like, "What?
Right,
What's going on?"
right.
But they
So
know
it's just
him.
weird that he just disappeared. But that's what I'm saying. At what point do you feel as a mom that you may be at fault for sending your kids to a situation that may not be stable because of his mental health issues? He's
I don't know.
homeless.
How do you be able to see? Because at the same time, yeah, but she was in love with him at one point.
Yeah, but
She had children
they're
with him,
separate.
3 of them.
They're not together. So clearly,
But I think
I mean,
it's
I
like,
know you have the love for them.
like
as
for
the
instance,
dad
in
of
my
your kids.
situation, my mom could have never let me go see my dad.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, I could have just grew up here the entire time, you know, and not had to go to Chicago or anything. But she never said no to him seeing me.
But different circumstances. I don't know your entire circumstances, but if your dad didn't have a place for you to be
I
sleeping,
didn't stay at his apartment.
you didn't?
No. I stayed at my grandma's. And he would stay at my grandma's too.
Only for that time that you're there? Or he didn't have his own place at all?
He had like a government assisted apartment, I think, which I've been to a few times, but I've never stayed there, not once.
Okay.
I've
And
never
maybe
stayed there alone, not once either.
and maybe your mom made sure that you wouldn't stay
Probably.
there,
And
you know,
like, yeah.
knowing that
I remember like
stereotypically it's not probably a safe area.
there was one night where I was at my friend's house and I would go there like every single day, like the whole day, whenever like, you know, things weren't, he was around or he was busy or whatever was going on. And I remember that something actually had happened, and I think he had like a heart attack and he went to the hospital. So my grandma came and I guess she said that, and I was just excited because I got to spend the night with my friend at his house and watch Kick-Ass all night. That movie. I remember. I never forgot. And I spent the night that day because of that. And my mom, I don't think my mom was like, she was very like she wasn't really open, because I think I've asked before, and she wasn't very much like open to me spending the night somewhere else, especially so far away. And obviously, there's reasons why. And so that's when from my experience, it's like I see both sides. She was protective too, but at the same time, she could have said no. Like, it's not like he was, the best person and like the best things happen. Like, it's more so on the bad side than it is on like, oh, he just kind of messed up. Not like he messed up for real, for real. And
I mean,
a lot of
thankfully,
people would probably choose in your mindset. A lot of
yeah.
people would probably choose maybe I shouldn't, right?
And
So
then
I think
you
it's
guys
difficult.
being so far away, because your mom wasn't. It's not like she could have picked you up 30
Nah,
minutes. You know what I
no.
mean? She would have to take a flight and actually go there
Yeah,
to get you if something was to happen.
Yeah, and
but
then
she
drive,
probably made sure your grandma was there. That she probably trusted your grandma more, maybe, to make sure
she
things
didn't
were
actually
okay.
like.
Oh,
No,
really?
they had a bad relationship.
Well,
But
that doesn't mean
I
that
think
they're
I
a
think
bad
she got
person.
me a phone pretty early on so that
Yeah.
I could go there and I can text her, call her, or
Well, that's
whatever, and
good.
not have to do it through like their little house phone or
Yeah.
nothing. So it was right there. I had that little phone. That summer, I actually ended up jumping in the pool with that phone. But yeah, so it's like I get it, but at the same time, these people, they have kids together and they trust, like, sometimes they'll never expect that. And I'm only saying this from that perspective, is maybe she's a part of it, who knows, but maybe
Yeah.
that was something that she could have never imagined.
It's just hard though,
She
because like
was one of
he's
the
diagnosed
closest,
with so many different things.
but she was one of the closest people to him.
Right. So you just kind of thought that, oh, okay, they're just
Sometimes
going
it's
on
the
camp.
closest people that you're blind
sure.
to.
For sure. I wonder, I don't know if you know Alex, but, which, by the way, we have Alex in the background today, not Mario. But I don't know if you know a little bit about this, Alex, but do you know if mom has spoken up at all in this case?
Not a whole lot. She has a GoFundMe that surpassed $1 million. And then, yeah. And then also, he
Holy
only
moly.
had 3 hours on Fridays and 8 hours every other weekend. So he didn't have any overnight.
So it
with
was
them.
supervised. So it was for
Oh, it was
sure.
supervised.
Yeah. Dang. That sucks. And then there's.
I wonder if did I have supervised? Is
No.
it technically supervised? What does supervised mean? It has
It's
to be
like
supervised
that.
by a police
Sometimes-
officer or peace officer. Or what is
Sometimes,
that?
so sometimes you have to go to a specific like family center, and there's like a caseworker that's there, like legit there, while you're visiting them and spending time with them. But you can't go home. I mean, certain supervised visits can be different, but typically there's a third party there supervising your visitation hours, and it's like that within a few hours. It's never an overnight. It's never like the whole weekend. If you're going to be supervised, and it's typically for people who may have these mental disorder or drug issues, homelessness, that you still want to provide the visitation to them, but you're not going to be left alone
Yeah.
without somebody else watching over what you're doing.
Can that supervised visit be a family member?
I'm not sure, but I don't hear that too often. It's typically like a caseworker.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't 24/7, because when I was at his house, I mean, we were running through the neighborhood or
Yeah.
riding our bikes, swimming in the backyard or something.
But if they were on supervised visit, I wonder how did he get the permission to take them out for camping?
I don't know, because
I mean, there's no way he
Bizarre.
took
just
them.
go.
There's no way he took them. It would have been. She would have called
Yeah.
911.
Well, so there's another part, right, to where I guess the mom finally found out that the kids are missing, or I guess they didn't return back home, but they never issued an Amber Alert. It took them too long. It wasn't the decision not to issue an Amber Alert immediately after the children went missing has drawn scrutiny. So they didn't issue an Amber Alert.
Why?
I'm not sure, but that's.
I thought they said that they didn't issue an Amber Alert because the children were already found deceased.
But
But was there a phone? Because if that
wonder-
was the case, if they were taken, then she would have called 911.
right, or I wonder if it's one of those situations where
100% it would have been out on Amber Alert.
maybe the police thought that, okay, well, they're with dad, so it may just be a civil dispute, and they're not talking to each other, and not like completely. he took the kids and
But they would
ghosted.
ask about the situation, and if she told them, she would probably be panicking. No,
Yeah, and it just could be that it just fell through the cracks and somebody messed up.
is there anything that says about like when it started?
I'm looking at a timeline, and it looks like it was law enforcement. Washington State Patrol issued endangered missing person alert, which doesn't send like Amber Alert.
When was
phone
that?
Stuff. Let me see.
That they sent that? That had to have been after the bodies were found.
The mother reported them missing at 9:45 on May 30th.
So that was the day of the visit.
And he was
But
supposed to drop them back off at 8.
9:45 p.m.
So they didn't come back home that night. So they didn't
Oh.
find the bodies until June 2nd.
Yeah.
So it took them a
So
few
why
days to
wouldn't they
find them.
submit? That's like 3-4 days, no? Huh. Interesting.
I mean-
Somebody's got an answer to that question.
And the fact that it sounds like, well, maybe it's unsupervised visits, but he really had strict like schedule. So maybe that's why he was able to get away with it and going to a campsite. But that's weird. Wouldn't you tell if you're going camping, you're staying overnight more than likely, right?
Yeah.
You're not just going there. I mean, sometimes, I've done that.
Sometimes people come and for a few hours and then,
And then
they'll
they'll leave.
home
Yeah.
around
Right.
11 or-
But
So
I feel like that
probably-
would have been a red flag in my mind as a mom too. Like, you're going to a camp, or maybe he just
She
didn't say
know.
anything.
I don't think she knew.
Yeah. They
If she
said it
he
was like a
supposed-
planned thing, but I don't know how planned.
She said that was supposed to be there at 8 to drop them back off.
And just
She
never
filed
showed
it
up.
at 9:45.
Yeah.
And it says that the
Man.
Wenatchee Police Department decided that the investigation did not meet Amber Alert criteria at the time. So it was a police decision.
Yeah.
They're about to. Somebody's.
Which
gonna
is
get
wild
fired.
to me. I get that often too, where people call and like, oh, the other parent kidnapped my child. They don't technically recognize that as kidnapping because it's your biological child. Does that make sense? So maybe police thought that, oh,
And sometimes
I'm sure
there's
they'll come
situation-
back.
I think there's probably some sort of policy procedure that it comes to it, and if are those requirements, maybe they're like super broad, and they made a call, and it was just the wrong call.
Yeah.
The wrong.
Man, I wonder.
Someone's gonna.
I guess we'll have to see when they died, because I'm curious to see if they died on that day, after they do their medical examination.
I'm sure they probably died that day.
You think so?
Yeah,
Probably.
because he doesn't have very much time to do something like that.
Right, before they find
If
him.
he already knows
Yeah.
that he was supposed to drop him off and
Yeah.
he took them. God, evil people, bro.
I wonder, like, how could you, like, it's similar how I feel with that one guy in Colorado when he killed his 2 kids and a wife because he was having an affair. And then he just decided to kill his wife and his 2. And then she was pregnant at the time, I think. She just found out
girls?
she was pregnant, yeah. And he dumped it into the water?
You're talking about like them little chemical tanks or whatever?
Yes, he dumped them, and they weren't completely dead yet. You never heard that one?
No.
It's on Netflix too.
water
American
tank.
Next Door, something. Yeah, but that was wild. Like they claimed that the girls were not completely dead when he dumped them into that tank. So like imagine your kids like screaming, like, "What are you doing?" They're scared. They were tiny too. They weren't like older kids. They were.
It sounds
Younger
crazy,
kids.
but like some people can just completely detach their mind.
And then
from-
he just acted like he issued out, I want to see my wife. I want them to come back home safely. He was in front of the camera and news talking about it, and he did the whole thing.
Oh, the Watts.
Yes, Chris Watts. Yeah. And it's just I can't.
That
I
cop
can't
knew
imagine.
something was up, though. The cop that originally responded to the scene, he knew something was up.
for sure.
He caught on to it. Have you watched that video footage?
Yeah,
That video footage was crazy.
For sure.
It's crazy. He was doing real good until but he slipped up a few times.
For sure.
But no, this I don't know. I think that this sounds crazy, but there's certain people that it's just like an animal.
So
It's just
going.
like an animal, like kind of breaking the neck of a chicken.
And going back to the
Gutting
mental
them.
illness part of the things, because, I mean, we don't know for sure, but so what is being said out right now is that he was suffering mental illness issues, PTSD, multi-personality disorder, what have you. So when it comes to that, how does that play a role into the justice system? And I mentioned before, you have to provide proof that you were not at the mental state where you can make those wrong versus right decisions when the act was committed. So when in terms of sentencing, PTSD and other mental illness are often considered mitigating circumstances, potentially leading to reduced sentences or diversion programs, but only if they are proven to significantly impair judgment at the time of the offense. The courts typically require psychiatric evaluations and detailed testimony to establish the link between PTSD and criminal behavior. How often do you think this insane plea is successful, do you think? If you guess a percentage from 1 through 100.
37% of the time.
1%.
What?
Yeah. It's the success rate with using this plea is 1%.
That's like a final Hail Mary, isn't it?
Yeah. So some examples that people may have used, because, I mean, you have to show there's a lot of times people forget that if you're masking that you did something wrong, that's automatically like, okay, like you knew.
Is
you
that
did
number
something wrong.
just all cases, or is that number murder cases? I want to know the murder case
That
insanity
I don't know.
numbers.
That I don't know. I don't have
Because
to.
that I'm curious to know.
So certain cases that they have pled insanity defense. So somebody like Ted Bundy, I'm sure a lot of people know who he is. He's a serial killer. He claims there's at least 30 women back in the 1970s that he was responsible for killing them. He was, charismatic, highly intelligent. He even represented himself in court, and he pleaded insane, but the judge denied that. The jury didn't buy it. They claimed that his crimes were methodical, planned over the years. He lured victims using manipulation, fake injuries, and charm. He disposed of bodies and moved across states to avoid capture. He knew what he was doing was wrong, which completely disqualified him from the insanity plea. So same thing with this guy. If he shows up, it's like, hey, ma'am, I'm just crazy. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought, PTSD takes you back to your traumatic event or whatever, and maybe he served overseas where he had witnessed those things, and if he decides to use that as a defense, it wouldn't work because right now he's running from it. He hasn't turned himself in. He didn't, he's not coming out of the woodworks. So right now that wouldn't work with him,
Right.
because it was planned. He had zip ties.
Unless he's dead.
Yeah. Another case, Eddie Ray Ruth. He was the murderer of Chris Kyle. You know who Chris Kyle is?
I do. I was curious. Alex, have you found anything on that?
No, I think it's so small.
Oh, dang,
Well,
that's
I think,
surprising.
like,
I thought it would be more.
Like a murder percentage specifically, I think it's lower.
Yeah, like out of all like murder cases, how successful like the,
Well, and it's only
insanity plea-
used in 1% of criminal cases.
Wow,
So probably even less.
that's crazy.
Dang.
I thought
And I
would
thought
be
it was more. I thought more people would want to use that plea, but it's hard. I think
Most
it's really,
murderers
really
know
hard.
what they're doing.
I think so,
basically
too.
what that tells us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you say you know who Chris Kyle is?
Yeah, the American Sniper.
Yep.
He had
He.
over like 30 something, 40. Or he has some crazy amount of confirmed kills.
Mm-hmm.
And
So he was a Navy SEAL sniper, and he was already out of the military at the time, I think, right? And I think he was like training or something, or he was helping with other veterans. I can't remember the exact details of what happened, but they were at a shooting range, if I'm not mistaken.
oh my God! Oh yes, and his friend shot him.
Yes, he's a former Marine. Eddie Ray Roth shot him and his friend Chad Littlefield at a gun range in Texas. He had documented history of severe PTSD, schizophrenia, and paranoid delusions from his military service. He claimed he thought the two men were trying to harm him. So that was his I guess, excuse. And so the attempt was the defense attorney argued that Roth was legally insane, suffering from mental illness that made him believe that he had to act in self-defense. But the experts for the defense supported his claim, citing delusions and psychosis. However, prosecutors argued that he was intoxicated from marijuana and alcohol, and that his action, including fleeing the scene and lying to the police, showed he knew it was wrong. And also, after he fled, he refused to turn himself in. The prosecution successfully argued mental illness did not equal legal insanity. So he was sentenced to life in prison without parole. So that didn't work with him either. So
they gave a huge ceremony for him, too. Mm-hmm. I've seen the movie.
Which is so sad. Like, I wonder what the motive was. I don't know if we'll ever know, or if he has said... Or do you think he probably was going through those manic episodes and he thought that he was getting harmed?
Maybe he just wanted to feel the feeling of ending somebody's life again from the military. Some people, bro, because oh my God. There's these podcasts with, like, former Marines and stuff and, like, some, like, crazy missions. And this guy, they sit in, like, this kind of dark room, kind of like a real, like... gritty whiskey dark bar type of room, and typically he'll have like military personnel on there or former military men, and they talk about like crazy instances on missions where they thought that they weren't going to make it out of and stuff like that. And some of those people, man, they're just machines. It's literally just kill or be killed.
You have to detach
yourself.
Machines,
bro. Yeah. Machines. They're war machines.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because some people come back and they're still in touch with that human aspect of them. But some people over there, and it's typically those people that come back lost because they felt like that's what they were made to do and that's what they did and that's all they know. And that's all they ever knew.
My grandpa, he served during Vietnam. And he came back with PTSD. And I think guys who served in the Vietnam era, I think has way worse, like, case of PTSD more than probably people that served for Iraq. Well, I may be wrong. That could be really subjective answer. But anyway, so
there was a lot of, I think, in Vietnam, there was a lot of, like, unethical practices, too.
Yes.
There's like the villages and massacres and stuff like that.
And then people with women and kids. So anyway, so he came back with severe PTSD. And my grandma remembers, I don't think not often anymore. I don't think not like recent, but maybe like years back where his job at the time, well, not at the time, not all the time because he was a medic, but his job was to patrol around the tents in Vietnam to make sure there's no enemies around. And at times late at night, he would wake up and he would take his gun and he would just patrol around the house back home in the States. So in those cases, like...
What if he heard something and your grandma just didn't? And
then you walking around with a shotgun around your house, you're going to freak people out. That's not normal.
You're inside your house.
He's outside of the house patrolling. Right. Imagine people driving by and see this man patrolling around the house with a shotgun. That's not normal, you know. But I'm pretty sure at the time, like, it kicked in something in him, you know. And then my other grandpa, so my grandma was married and divorced and married to another veteran. So her first husband, same thing, PTSD, and occasionally he would wake up and slap the hell out of her. Thinking that, you know, like my grandma was somebody else. So it's just those PTSD, like, instances, I'm pretty sure it's common, not to excuse him for murdering somebody, but I imagine, I can't relate to them. I don't know what it would feel like.
The war's gotten a lot more sophisticated since then.
Yeah.
Now it's just like, well, there's obviously still like gunfights and stuff, but IUDs and special tools and special forces, not just like guerrilla warfare. And all that stuff. I mean, that's still traumatic though.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine surviving what's it called? When you walk into a trap
A booby trap?
No, like in the army, you walk into something that they set up. You were surrounded. They surrounded you.
I don't know what term you're looking for, but I know what you mean.
It's like you walk into a trap.
Mm-hmm.
A surprise attack, basically. And it's like, if you were to survive one of those, I'll be shook.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff's gruesome.
And even during trainings too, because I had a recent conversation with my husband after we watched the Osama bin Laden documentary.
I'm gonna watch it tonight. I swear I'm watching it tonight.
So we were talking through, my husband's a veteran, in case I didn't say that to one of my past episodes. But anyway,
shout out to all the veterans.
Yes,
Shout
yes,
out to all the
100%.
We
We appreciate you. So he was telling me, even just the trainings alone, they show you gruesome videos and images of other, people, or even sometimes us doing to the enemies, like beheading. He said in one particular, this is probably really kind of out there, but you can, should I say it? Or should I keep it to myself?
Tell me.
No,
Tell me.
Just say it.
So it was a video of somebody getting beheaded, and he remembers specifically because the guy was squealing like a pig as it was happening, and that's still that stays in your head. So that alone is PTSD, and they show you that in the military as part of training. It's not you going out there.
In the Vietnam War?
No, come on, my husband.
Oh.
No.
Wait.
He was in the Army 09 to 12. So, yeah. So during that time, I
didn't know they did that.
Yeah. And
it
was part of training.
Maybe it's
to
part
show
of like
them
the special forces. Maybe he was in a specific one, because I don't think everybody sees people get beheaded.
I think so. I think it's part of them to kind of like hit reality to their face, like, hey, like, this isn't a joke. You're in this, and you may see these things, and you may have to prepare yourself as to what's to come,
I think I've seen a video like that before.
I have too. Not that I was looking for it, but back in the day, y'all didn't use MySpace, huh?
Twitter's pretty bad, bro.
Twitter is bad. MySpace was bad too.
Yeah.
Twitter's like the new age MySpace, I feel like.
Yeah.
Twitter's
bad.
got some...
Twitter does not censor.
The worst videos I've ever seen have been on Twitter.
Well, on Reddit too. They started censoring, but there was some...
Oh, forget that. No.
There was some stuff
I keep
in
Reddit
there.
just for like research, like car
Really?
things,
Yeah,
technical
Reddit,
stuff.
yeah.
Facebook
They've
ads,
censored
stuff.
a lot recently, but it used to.
Yeah. You'll see those kind of things. So I can imagine that. I mean, you don't see that every day. You're not supposed to see
For the most part, though, like that stuff it looks fake. It looks like a movie. It literally does. I've spoke to some like firsthand people that have firsthand experience with very gruesome accidents or deaths or whatever, and I was told that it literally looks fake. Like it literally looks like a movie. Mm-hmm. Like bad car accidents or something like that it's just like goo, and it just looks fake and stuff. But I mean, I can't imagine the types of things that we're seeing in the Vietnam War, and in just war in general. I mean, that stuff's, I don't know what the rate is for like how many people have PTSD coming out the military.
It has to be high.
You have it?
Yeah,
I
so I have it per like operation. So Iraqi and Enduring Freedom, it's 11 to 20 in every 100 have PTSD. In the Gulf War, it's 12 of every 100, and then Vietnam, it's 30% of all Vietnam veterans have PTSD.
What about like
Is there any-
Afghanistan and Iraq war?
I think those might have.
It might be too.
I think those might be pushing nom.
In the documentary will tell you, so like the first, like their method of getting Osama bin Laden, the whole Al-Qaeda, is to like basically just go and get everybody. But then they were like, nope, that's too much. So my husband will always say, they have just kept going the way they were doing, just kind of bombing everywhere, which is not ethically or morally right. They probably would have gotten to Osama a lot quicker, but because they had to draw back and actually like plan and try to seek for him to see where he's
crazy,
at,
bro.
that's why it took years to go find him and see where he is.
Night vision dropped in the middle, checking the bunkers, checking the rooms, lasers. Oh, I'm about to watch that documentary, dude.
It's the last episode.
I've been wanting to watch
very
it.
chilling.
Oh my god,
So can I tell you a little bit?
No, don't tell me,
fine.
because I really want to watch it.
Okay, fine.
I'm excited.
23%.
Yeah, so it's pretty. Yeah, it's
Between
pretty up there.
Afghanistan and Iraq.
Yeah, I imagine.
Those were gruesome.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of my brother's friends. They fought.
Yeah.
And he has some bad memories.
Oh,
So-
one little correction to my statistics earlier. So it's used in less than 1% of felony cases. My bad.
Oh, it's used.
But it's successful in only a fraction of those.
Hmm.
How that insanity plea will work. So there's 2 cases that I pulled up. If the team pulled up for the successful insanity cases. So John Hinckley Jr., he attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan back in 1981. He shot the president, the police officer, Secret Service agent, and press secretary James Brady, who was permanently disabled from this. He claimed he did it to impress the actress Jodie Foster, whom he was obsessed with. So he claimed the insanity defense presented extensive psychiatric evidence that Hinckley suffered from acute psychosis and narcissistic personality disorder, and he had delusions and genuinely believed that the assassination would connect him with the actress. So that the outcome, he was found not guilty by reason of his sanity, confined to a mental hospital for over 35 years, until 2016 under strict supervision. And it worked because of delusional thinking and disconnection from reality. His motives were not logical or understandable, even under wrapped logic, indicating severe mental illness. So that plea worked for him. Another one, Andrea Yates. She drowned her 5 kids in 2001. She drowned them in a bathtub in Houston, Texas. She immediately confessed, saying she was trying to save them from Satan. So their defense team went and pleaded insanity. She was suffering from severe postpartum psychosis and schizophrenia, believed that she was carrying out God's will to save her children from eternal damnation. She was convicted of capital murder. However, she appealed because back in 2006 retrial, and they were able to overturn her conviction due to false expert testimony, and she was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to a state mental hospital. And it worked because of the evidence of psychosis, delusion, long history of mental health treatment, and no clear motive for personal gain.
How do you fix something like that? Like, okay, they get admitted into a mental institute. Now what?
I guess treatments.
That person can just
Rehab?
go back into normal life.
I guess it depends on how long they're supposed to be there. But if I'm not mistaken, Andrea Yates, she's still there. If I'm not mistaken.
I think so, yeah.
And I think
It's
she's
like a
going to be there for the rest of
mental-
her life.
Yeah.
Do you
That's
think
crazy
rehab
stuff,
works?
man.
Do you think mental illness, is that curable in your mind?
I think it's. Hold on, let me gather an actual good response to this. I don't want to get ahead of myself.
I think you can manage it.
I agree.
Right.
I think
can
it's
see that.
manageable, but I also think it's somewhat preventable for certain aspects.
Like crimes or what?
No, I think like
So like people
think-
say people are on drugs or they're suffering from mental illness too. You know, they kind of sometimes put them into the same category.
But is that a
because
mental
they're
illness?
altered, their
Is that
brain
a-
chemistry.
Is that a mental illness or is that just a habit? You know, like a bad, like an unhealthy way.
It could, but because of the type of drugs that they're taking, it makes them, you know, delusional. They
Yeah.
hallucinate.
I mean, that's true too.
you know, so
I don't know.
you get paranoid. So a lot of people will get
Have you ever
diagnosed
suffered
with.
from a mental illness?
I don't believe so. No, I don't think so.
Would you consider yourself would you have considered yourself like when you were younger, like a strong child? Like you understood a lot of like things.
Like right from wrong. Like that kind of strong.
No, I feel like so where I'm going with this is like depression, right? I feel like some people depression catches them off guard, but some people like they understand what depression is and they can get themselves out of it.
Yes.
But mentally, there's people that
Can't.
still stay in control, and then there's people that think that they don't have control. And some illnesses, I mean, I think it's beyond the comprehension of understanding that they can control their mind to an extent, right? Because obviously there's the chemical, like once it becomes chemical and like all that stuff, like that's
Like imbalanced.
That's science. I mean,
Yeah.
medicine can help, but you can't control that, right? But for things that I feel like depression, right? If depression wasn't manageable or like preventable, do you think people would still get depression?
If it wasn't manageable,
Or
or if it was manageable.
it is. I feel like it is.
I feel like if
Because people get themselves out of depression. How I got myself out of depression is like I changed the way that I thought, but I stayed in control. I mean, there was obviously things that I would do that felt uncontrollable.
I think if people are taught that and educated,
Yeah. Yes.
then
that's
I
what I'm
don't
saying.
then I don't think it would be,
As common.
not that it's common, but I think they will get themselves diagnosed or seek help sooner.
Yeah.
Than
Because they would
result
understand
into
it.
something like this where you do end up committing a crime. You do
Yeah.
end up abusing drugs or whatever to
Yeah.
cope with the alcohol.
Yeah,
is a
and
big
that's what
thing,
I'm
you
saying
know?
is like people come back from that. And if people can come back from depression, then I feel like there's certain things that maybe it just has to do with childhood. Trauma has a lot to do with a lot of that stuff too. I mean, I haven't like looked into this. This is off the top of my head. And this is just an assumption. I could be like wrong. Forgive my ignorance, but
That's why I feel like
it's like a touchy subject because I don't want to make people feel like, their mental health issues aren't valid. But I think that there's a lot of times where people can victimize their issues and make it worse.
There's another documentary. I love documentaries. I seen in a recent, I don't think it's new, but it's about this prison who, I don't know who came up with this program, but they have a program of making quilts for foster kids. And these group of prisoners, they kind of help each other out. They have so many fabrics that people donate to them.
It's pretty cool.
And they make quilts. They make the most beautiful quilts.
awesome.
So you wouldn't think like an average guy that you see on the streets, on drugs or alcohol, whatever, committing these crimes could think about this beautiful designs and patterns that you can make a quilt with. But what I think it's cool was that they probably whoever that did it, implemented this program to kind of take them out of their daily struggles and whatever that they're having issues with and have them focus on something else and then create a passion for it. And it kind of keeps themselves busy.
Yeah.
And then over
Keeps them out
time,
of
like,
trouble,
right,
and it becomes their daily, they're consistent with it. It becomes their life,
Right.
and that's just what they learn to
right.
do.
And then you humble yourself and you're
Yeah.
helping other people,
Yeah.
that they're struggling, especially kids. And I
And
think
see, that's a way to get out of that dark
Right.
stuff that they may be going through. I think there's some things that are manageable. I think there's some things that are not manageable that, there's not very much help for and people suffer from it and it sucks and they have to like find and try all these different methods to have a little bit of relief and it's like terrible, and there's
like-
not. But
and
I
that's
think there's a
why-
lot of little things that could be manageable or yeah, it could be managed, it could be constrained if you're taught like how to express your emotions.
And that's why I'm in the gray area every time there's a conversation brought up of how we treat the prisoners to where, yeah, you want to be old school and do, what is it called? Eye for an eye. You want them to be hurt. You want them to be punished. In certain cases, I'm sure if I was in a situation where like this mom who lost her 3 kids to the father of your kids, if that's true, I'd be so outraged if he was to find out, like, I want him to suffer in prison. But then the other part of me was like, well, man, I feel bad. Maybe he did need help and he didn't know how to seek help,
So I'm like putting myself in that position right now and I'm like, I don't even know if I would want the person dead or just choose to forgive them. Because if I want them dead, it would still eat me up for the rest of my life. That and anger would rule everything if I gave in to, I want this person, I want him dead. And I lost my kids.
Right.
So now I have a constant reminder of, I hate this person.
Yeah,
And I don't have my kids anymore.
right.
At least leave with the dignity to be like, I forgive you. so that you can at least try to live the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But
that's hard, man. I can't imagine what she's
yeah.
going through.
And some mental illnesses are passed on through, like, biologically,
Genetics.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that situation, I mean, you're kind of, you know, you got to play with the cards you were dealt. And that's where I think those things can be manageable or possibly improved.
Or like know ahead of time. Like if your parents know that you're suffering from mental illness, do you want to make sure you're forthcoming if you have kids? Okay, take them to therapy.
It's hard too, is if they don't understand how to communicate their emotions or their feelings.
Yeah.
It's just gonna bottle up, and it's gonna get deeper and deeper and deeper. Like I've seen some videos of there's this martial arts instructor for children, and there was a kid that just said like he just wanted to punch him in the face because he was so frustrated, and he didn't know how to express his frustration, so he thinks that like punching his instructor in the face, and he said the instructor was like, do it, like go ahead, and he didn't move, and he was like, I understand why you say that. I'm not mad at you for feeling that way, but there's a proper way to express your emotions, your feelings that will help you. Instead of becoming angry, become understanding.
Yeah.
And become one with how you're feeling. And I feel like in that mindset, I don't know if there's numbers behind it or anything, or I don't know if I just sound stupid, but I feel like with that mindset, that's probably like one of the best mindsets that you could have to give to your children. So when there's times that they do get like that, they don't learn the unhealthy way to cope or to deal with that. Depression, they don't know how to deal with it, so it just sits and they feed it, and it feeds and it feeds and it feeds until it becomes too much. Or, you know, being angry and having some sort of like, you know, angry burst out, or having some type of PTSD. I don't know. I feel like there's certain things that, like, with learning at a young age as far as your emotions and stuff like that, you can mitigate it. But when it's stuff that's like chemical or stuff that you're born with, you can try your best. I'm just a firm believer in, like, if
we can go in a rabbit hole with this, because part of me, I was like, well, if we have better healthcare systems and people can diagnose early, but people don't want to go to hospital.
In the military,
so
in this
expensive,
instance, I mean, helps for veterans is already a little bit, I think, difficult. There is help and there are resources, but I mean, sometimes situations, you know, you don't know how somebody was discharged. You don't know the previous history. And then it has to, I'm sure all of those different resources have their own policy and procedures on what they can take and what they can't take. And that's where things become different. And then, you know, it's hard for veterans. And then things like this happen, and it's crazy. So they spiral sometimes, but
anyway, thank you for tuning in again for another episode. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe to our channel. We post weekly. So drop down in the comments what you think about this case. Would he turn up? Is he gone forever?
And if you guys are watching this after today, what's the date?
Today is the 13th.
The
June
13th. If y'all watch this after
it's
the 13th,
Friday the 13th.
or whenever y'all watch this, if there's new stuff that has came out, put it in the comments.
Yep.
And we'll
Let
read
us
them.
know. Thank you guys. Bye. Thank you for watching another episode of Legal Lounge. If you enjoyed this episode, you can always give our office a call to schedule your free 30-minute consultation with one of our team members. Check the description below and give us a call today.